All right. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, and our one guest. My name is Ari Klickstein. I'm the club president here at TIC Toastmasters, and I'm really excited to welcome you to our second meeting of the month. We have a pretty solid turnout from our members tonight, and we have one guest, Subhash, who I would love. Oh, wonderful. I see light and color is dawning there. We'll ask our guests in a moment to introduce themselves, but before we get started, I just want to reread for everybody our club mission, which is the mission of a Toastmasters Club is to provide a mutually supportive, positive learning environment in which every member has the opportunity to develop communication and leadership skills, which in turn foster self-confidence and personal growth. And I'm really thrilled tonight because one of our newer members and our club's vice president of membership, Eddie, is going to be leading us as Toastmaster, as the MC for tonight. And so I will turn it over to Eddie, who will welcome us and ask our guests to introduce themselves. Eddie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ari. Fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests. Let's start with introductions. So I hope I don't mispronounce this. Subhash, am I pronouncing that correctly? Can you maybe unmute yourself? And
Subhash, nice to meet you.
Subhash, okay. Could you tell us a little bit about how you came across our club, and maybe tell us why you what interests you about Toastmasters?
Well, this club meeting has been on my calendar for a while, but I just haven't had a chance to actually join. I have heard about Toastmasters. I've known about Toastmasters for a while. I just wanted to see, what Toastmasters is like on a virtual environment. I have attended one or two many years ago. Just briefly, but I've never, been part of a club for longer than one or two sessions. Unfortunately, just always struggle to make the time. But I think it's a great thing. It adds a lot of value to all attendees at different levels, and being able to speak publicly is great. And I think virtually, I think a lot of that still applies as well. I'm really excited. Thank you for allowing me to attend today. I'm really excited, and I think I called in a little bit earlier, so I heard a little bit of conversations. Very friendly people. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you very much. You're most welcome, and we hope to see you again very soon. So, happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. I hope you all felt a little bit of luck today. Thank you to everyone who wore green or has something green in their background. Thank you very much for joining that.
Do we lost Eddie? What's happening?
Throughout the meeting, which I took from history.com. Now, before you hear a fun fact, you're going to hear this sound. Fun fact number one, St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, was actually born in Britain at the end of the 4th century. And with that, let me introduce our timer, Giuseppe. Tell us, Giuseppe, what does a timer do?
Hi. Well, timer. The function of the timer is pretty much indicating how long the speaker is talking. We have different kind of speeches. We have the regular ones are 5 to 7 minutes, and are some that they are extended, which is going to be 7 to 10 minutes. Basically, what we do is the following. If you look at the screen that says timer right now, you can see that once we hit certain point, if the person starts to talk, and the timer starts to going on, and once it hits the 5 minutes, it will be green, as we can see right now, and then it will change to yellow, telling the person start to preparing to wrap up your speech, and when it hits the red, it's time to go. We have prepare a speech, 5 to 7 minutes, as I already mentioned. The table topics 1 to 2 minutes, and the evaluations 2 to 3 minutes. With that saying, back to you, Mr. Toastmasters.
Thank you, Giuseppe. Please, everyone, pay attention to those colors while you're speaking. And now we have our odd counter, Jahnavi. Can you explain what the odd counter role is all about?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. It's a pleasure to be your odd counter today, everyone. And basically, an odd counter pays attention to the filler words that are being used by everyone today. What do I mean? Basically, your ahs, your ums, so's, you knows, any repeated words. And I just want to let you guys know. So to reduce your filler words, one way is to pause. If you're thinking of your next thought, pause. It's better to use pauses than ahs and ums and so's because we want to hear you and not your filler words. So I'll be listening carefully, and then when the evaluation team comes up, I will share my report with everyone. So happy speaking, everyone. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jahnavi. And thank you for sneaking a speech tip in there. Remember, don't fill, pause. So now let's proceed to our word and joke of the day. I'll start with a joke. And this is a joke you might have heard before. What do you get when you cross a 4-leaf clover with poison ivy on St. Patty's Day? Anybody? A rash of good luck. So moving on, our word of the day, and I'm going to share my screen for this. Our word of the day is serendipity, the occurrence of events by chance in a happy or beneficial way. And to use it in a sentence, finding a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow would be a stroke of serendipity. And feel free to use the versions there is. Our general evaluator, Zachary, has graciously agreed to count word usage throughout the meeting. Thank you, Zach.
My pleasure.
And now I have the pleasure of introducing our speakers for the evening. Now, before this meeting, I asked each speaker one question. What is the luckiest thing that ever happened to you? Our first speaker, Lois Lynn, said that the luckiest thing that ever happened to her was her Uncle Pete. He liked to bet on horse races, and if he bet on 12 horses, 8 would win. He was smart, and he was very lucky. Lois is on the presentation mastery path. Her project is a Q&A session for 15 to 20 minutes. Her speech title is COVID Resilience. Lois Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. After my presentation, there'll be a Q&A, so please take notes of any questions or comments you may have as we go along. It takes an average of 17 years for research evidence to be applied into medical practice. A COVID-19 patient does not have 17 years to wait. Some risk factors for COVID-19 are not modifiable, and others are modifiable. Age is not a modifiable risk factor. However, risk factors like hypertension, heart disease, diabetes, or being overweight are long-term diseases that can linger for years and get worse with expensive medications that require greater dosages over time without fixing the problem. However, with proper food choices, diabetes can be treated in a matter of weeks. Heart disease and weight loss may take a few months to complete remission. And for complete remission, it could take a few years. However, their situation will improve all the while and not get worse. How would you like to be on the cutting edge of self-care to protect yourself against these modifiable diseases, and as a benefit, develop a strong immune system to protect you against the prolonged COVID-19 infection? While everyone is vulnerable to the COVID-19 infection, some people are exposed and able to recover more quickly and completely. Let's be very clear. There is no official COVID-19 protection diet. However, our day-to-day choices at the grocery store, in the kitchen, and what we choose to eat affect how our body will respond to an exposure to the COVID-19 virus. Tapping into my nutrition knowledge, staying up to date with the latest nutrition research, and years of practice, I created a way to become COVID resilient. It is easy to understand and simple to follow for you to create beautifully delicious meals that support your immune system to work at its tip-top performance. Think of your body as a house with many working systems. When one house system breaks, we have to call the repair person for a maintenance check. We are the same way. Sometimes we get symptoms that slow us down. Our everyday habits and food choices are either creating a strong defense to promote health that effectively protects us against offenders, and balance can get restored quickly. A COVID invader might break down our internal structure and burn the house down. COVID is a virus our immune system has never seen before. Our body will identify it as an unwanted invader and start to defend its integrity. At that moment of attack, the immune system may contain its fiery attack in a small location of a single body organ, or it may start to fill a room or body organ and seep into other rooms or body organs. Our immune system is only as strong as its weakest organ, and it will be determined by how well structured our house is when it first meets this invader. Let me give you an example of a situation from 2 weeks ago. On Tuesday, I went to the grocery store. On Wednesday, my throat felt raw. It was difficult to swallow. It was raw for 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday. On Friday and Saturday, it was 90% gone. On Sunday, I forgot I had a raw throat. In 1 week's time, my immune system did its job with little distress to me and my day. If my immune system was not working well, that raw feeling in my throat could have turned into a raging case of bronchitis, asthma, or pneumonia. Since I'm very food conscious and particular about what I eat to promote my health as best as possible, I must have been doing something right for that raw throat to resolve that quickly. If you're interested to eat to promote a resilient immune system, I created a Get COVID Resilience nutrition program that teaches you how to identify a healthy food and an unhealthy food, which categories of food to eat every day. And it explains how these foods support your immune system. This is a 6-week program, and it includes 6 learning modules. It is particularly helpful to those at greatest risk for a severe case of COVID-19, those that have hypertension, heart disease, diabetes, or overweight. If there are certain topics you'd like to see covered in a course like this, or if you have any questions, I'd be delighted to hear them and answer what I can for you. Now, I'm open to your questions. We have time. Anybody, can we have, let's do gallery view so I can see everybody. Kelly, can you unmute?
How are you?
Go ahead.
How are you? So I would like to know the foods that we should incorporate every day to boost our immune system.
Okay. Sure. You've heard of green leafy vegetables like collards and kale, mustard greens, turnip greens. They're very low calorie. They're very high in fiber and minerals and vitamins. Mm-hmm. So they give you the greatest bang for your buck.
Okay.
And the American diet is very low in fiber. And this is a problem for us. So what we need to do is to incorporate more plant foods with more fiber. And the reason is that we as human beings are 90% bacteria, and 10% of our genes are our genes. So we are more bacteria than genes, human genes. And the food for that bacteria is fiber. And we need to feed it a diverse amount of diverse kinds. The more diverse the bacteria in our body, the healthier we are. When we start to limit our foods to just a narrow variety, that narrows the amount of fiber we get, the kinds we get, and it narrows the diversity of the bacteria in our body. Those bacteria create our hormones and they inform our immune system. Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Lois. Thank you for that information. I sort of kind of know the answer to this. You hear so much about the importance of water in the body, but you also hear different people say different things about the different bottled waters that are out. Thanks, Kelly. That's one of the ones that I drink. And I just wanted to know, is there supposed to be some better water as opposed to other waters? I know we're all supposed to drink 8 fluid ounces a day to flush our system, to build our immune system. But if you can just talk a little bit about water in general.
Yes. Okay. 8 glasses of 8 ounces. You mean, right? Okay. There's a lot of fancy waters out there. We don't need them. We just need plain water that's clean. I do not recommend a plastic bottle because it leaches the plastic into our bodies. Newborn babies have plastic in their system because we drink it all the time. So what I recommend is I bought something called a Berkey water filter. You can decide what kind of water filter you want to buy. But I heard about this one, I tried it, and I like it the best. It's a gravity fed. It's got 2 parts. It sits on the side of my sink. I fill it up with water. I change the filter. You only need to change the filter once a year, so it's very economical. However, once in a while, it seems to me that it needs to be changed twice a year. because we have so much gunk. What is in our water supply are drugs, antibiotics, chemicals from the gasoline. There are so many foreign things, plus the fluoride and the chlorine. None of these things we need or want. They are foreign. So I purify my water. It tastes so much better. I am so happy that I have done this. I do not drink water out of the tap. And I use either a glass or stainless steel. I do not buy plastic water bottles anymore. And you don't need mineral water. You don't need alkaline water. You don't need any of that water. You just need water. Fresh, clean water. Okay? Yeah.
Lois, I have a quick question.
Yes.
So what you recommend for people to boost their immune system sounds good. It sounds a lot of whole plant foods. I'm curious if there's anything that you'd recommend for people who do have a COVID diagnosis or do have that sort of reduced ability, more tired as a result of coming down with COVID.
Once somebody has COVID, this will also be helpful, but I wouldn't want to interfere with medications or what are the doctors are doing. Let them do. Once somebody's in a chronic state, an acute state, I would say an acute state. This is an acute state. It comes on and it's very severe. The doctors have to handle them however they're going to handle them. It's kind of like getting cancer, you know, you just, the best medicine, let's just hope it can squash the fire. But so I don't want to interfere with that kind of thing. But you're not hurting, nobody's being hurt by eating well. We all have to eat every day. And I don't know if this applies here, but for people who have cancer, for example, and they're on chemo, I've heard it said by people who I respect, even though the doctors say eat protein, la 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 la, I've heard it said, and I respect these people and they have experience, that if you fast before and after the treatment, a few days before and a few days after, the treatment will be more effective. Whether that's true for COVID, I have no idea, right? But what happens, and I personally do not recommend fasting. When I go to sleep at night, my body's fasting. That's good enough for me, okay? But when there's a disease state, sometimes the body needs to, when we fast, it will eat up the bad guys first before it will eat up the good guys, bacteria-wise and things like that. We do lose muscle and things like that. So if I would ever recommend somebody fast, I would never recommend a pure fast. I would recommend liquid breakfast, a real lunch, real food, and a liquid dinner, because that keeps the body moving and going, and the digestive system doesn't go quiet. Once the digestive system goes quiet, it's like a medical issue to get it going again. So I don't really recommend that. I recommend like a modified, the way I just explained, with a lot of vegetable juices and things like that are very nourishing.
Nice.
Vegetable soup. I think we're at time. Thank you very much for your questions.
Wait, I was muted. My apologies. Thank you so much, Lois. Wonderful presentation. Giuseppe, let's put 1 minute on the clock. For anyone who would like to, please provide some private feedback for Lois in the chat.
Ready now. Done.
Great. Our second speaker, Ari Klickstein, said the luckiest thing that ever happened to him was entering a high school contest that he didn't win. During this contest, he met a future mentor who gave him a job, and to do this job, he met his wife. Ari is on the persuasive influence path. His project is researching and presenting for 5 to 7 minutes. His speech title is Going Electric. Ari Klickstein.
Thank you very much, Eddie. Before I begin, I just want to confirm, you can all hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, great. And I just want to confirm if you can hear the sound in this presentation. Do you hear any sound, any music? Thumbs up? Yeah, you do? Okay, fantastic, thanks. All right, thank you so much for the introduction, Eddie and Lois. Also, thank you for talking about food and eating. That really brings us to the topic I want to discuss tonight. And Eddie, also thank you for the theme of green, because that brings me to my topic tonight. So I'm going to play a sound, and you can unmute and take a guess if you think you recognize this sound. All right, does everybody hear that? Does anybody want to take a guess at what that sound is?
I didn't hear anything.
Let me play it again.
Maybe it's just me.
Do you hear anything now? Still nothing?
I'm not hearing anything.
Okay, no worries, don't worry about it.
A lighter.
The sound was me turning on my stove, the gas heat on my stove.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna admit something. When I moved to my last apartment and noticed that there was not gas, but an electric stovetop, I was a little disappointed. And I know I'm not the only person. I think making this move from gas to electric, going electric, a lot of people see this as a bad trade-off. It feels like an uphill battle to convince people that this might be a better way forward. Because with electric, you don't have that same visceral rush of turning on the flame, hearing that click, seeing the blue light flare up out of the stove and feeling the heat that comes off of it. But there are some advantages to it. So tonight I want to discuss why you may want to make that switch. And I'm going to talk about 3 reasons why this is probably a good move for you and the people in your lives. So the first one, which is sort of the most macro level reason, I think you should make the switch for the planet. You should do it for the planet. And why is that? Because we are still emitting far more carbon than we need to be going forward. And in fact, even larger than the transportation sector in the United States, the building sector, heating, cooling, elevators, this is responsible for more emissions than transportation. And all of the cars, all of the trucks on every road today in America, every rush hour traffic jam, every delivery truck, add that all together, buildings are still responsible for more of our carbon emissions than this other sector. And globally, this is the same. Globally, between building operations and the construction materials, these are a larger component than transportation or industry. And I was actually surprised that operations over the lifespan of a building also are larger than the building materials. And one thing to keep in mind with buildings is if we have apartment buildings that have, or homes that have gas hookups for their stoves, this cements the infrastructure and keeps it in place for the lifespan of that building. Could be another 50 years, which is time we do not have when it comes time to needing to reduce our country's carbon emissions and our global carbon emissions. So that's reason number one, do it for the planet. Reason two, do it for the neighbors, do it for the city and the people around you. Believe it or not, having this gas infrastructure stuck in place, this gas infrastructure has leaks. And these leaks, not only do they contribute to methane emissions, which are adding to our warming planet, but they also can cause respiratory problems to the people who live in the city around you, because these pipelines and the infrastructure, they're not perfect. So I'm gonna bring up a little data from this organization that put together something called the Gas Index. And this was a study of studies linking together lots of different municipal data sets of how leaky their emissions were. And in short, they found that the sooner we can transition away from relying on gas for our homes, the better. This is the results of their data. They found that in all of these cities, these were some of the worst cities in terms of the leakage of methane from their gas infrastructure. I was actually particularly surprised. They found that in Boston, where I grew up, that the city's aging pipeline system was causing about 2.5% of all of the gas that's coming in to leak out into the streets and into people's lungs. Not only that, but these leaky systems were one of the reasons why 40 homes were destroyed in a series of explosions in the gas system in 2018. And so this aging infrastructure is definitely not good. But believe it or not, a little bit more evidence that New York is the greatest city in the world. Of all the cities studied in this meta-analysis, New York actually came in as the least leaky of all the cities. Yes, Lois, I agree. It is cause for celebration. And one of the reasons for this was actually because of our density. Because everything is so close together, there's not as many opportunities for the gas to leak through these pipes. And now the final reason I want to talk about for why I think this move to electric is a good thing is you should do it for your family. Believe it or not, the gas stove in your home emits more of these combustion emissions, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, than many governments recommend for either outdoor pollution or indoor pollution. So the Rocky Mountain Institute did also a study and found that when you're baking a cake, when you're boiling water, even when you're just turning the gas on and not cooking anything on there, the parts per billion of nitrogen dioxide far surpass both the United States and the WHO's standards for indoor and outdoor density of these pollutants in the air. And these pollutants can have respiratory conditions that people suffer from, including asthma. And the people that are most likely to suffer from these are the cooks, the people cooking, and children, because they have, younger bodies. So, what do I suggest? I would say, if you can, you should try cooking with induction heating. This uses magnetism to heat up the metal of your stoveware directly instead of heating the air around it as well. And so you can boil water in what they say is about half the time. It's also a lot safer. As you can see here, there's a bar of chocolate that when it's on the pan is melting, but when it's directly on the heating implement is totally normal. It's also a lot easier to clean, which is true of electric surfaces overall. You just take the pot off and you can wipe it right off. You don't have to pull up those electric grills. And lastly, I would say, because we are all now so much more aware of ventilation due to COVID, when you're cooking, especially in the summer, when you can easily open those windows, you should do so. It can cut down the amount of those pollutants that you have in your home and in your kitchen. So if you have the opportunity, I would say you should try going electric. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ari. Giuseppe, 1 minute, please, for private feedback.
Starting now. I guess you can hear. Time's up.
Yes, I got it. Our third and final speaker, Michael C. Smith, said that he was very lucky to win a contest back in the early 90s. The one card he submitted was chosen out of thousands. Michael's on a dynamic leadership path. His project is evaluation and feedback for 5 to 7 minutes. Speech title, Growing Up in Bed-Stuy. Michael C. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good evening to my fellow Toastmasters and to our distinguished and honored guests. So happy to see everyone this evening on this St. Patrick's Day. I had to stand up for this presentation, so that's why you see a little shift. So for tonight's speech, I'd like to take you on a little journey back in time to a place called Bedford-Stuyvesant, which is located in Brooklyn. Now, for people who live there, we affectionately called it Bed-Stuy. And it still goes by that name to this day. I guess it was just a little cooler to use the shortened version. For those of you who don't know where Bed-Stuy is, it's located in the heart of central Brooklyn, bordered by Crown Heights, Ocean Hill, Brownsville, Bushwick, and Williamsburg. Bed-Stuy was actually a relatively small section of central Brooklyn, but its popularity grew over the years where it truly expanded. I was about a year old when my family moved into a house in Bed-Stuy. My father purchased our 4-family house for a mere $5,000. To show you how things have changed, 4 years ago, that same house was renovated and is now valued on the market for nearly $1.3 million. I lived on a block where as kids, we did pretty much everything on our block. My friends and I were really good at entertaining ourselves. The block was full of families with children of all ages. Our activities included things like punch ball and hide the belt. We built race carts with wooden milk crates from the corner grocery store and used roller skates for the wheels. We played a game called Skelly, we jumped fences, and we flew kites. I attended public school right in my neighborhood. I attended kindergarten through 6th grade at the same elementary school as did all my brothers and sisters. To this day, I can still name every one of my teachers from grade school. They each must have had a real impact on my life. One of my favorite holidays growing up was actually Halloween. When I was really young, it was all about that store-bought costume. As I got a little older, you would make up your costume. But the bottom line, it was really about the candy. Sorry, Lois. On a good night, you would have a shopping bag half full of candy, which took you about a week to consume. Seems like every house you went to provided candy to us. When I was 9 years old, my parents signed me up for Cub Scouting at one of our local churches. Although none of my friends from my block joined with me, I did make a lot of new friends. There were always a lot of activities in scouting. I really liked wearing my blue Cub Scout uniform. The entire Cub Scout program was designed for learning and keeping kids our age very active. I participated in a lot of events with other scouting units. I did not go camping every summer, but did for a few summers. I never really liked camping. We slept in cabins and I earned a few badges along the way. Scouting, though, must have had a big impact on me because later in my adult life, I took on the leadership position with our scouting districts and then later with the Brooklyn Scouting Council. One of my greatest honors was receiving the highest adult leadership award in scouting, known as the Silver Beaver. I watched my junior high school being built from the ground up. I'll never forget my first day in junior high school. New York experienced one of those fierce hurricanes. Fortunately, not bad enough to close the schools, but bad enough. One of the reasons my friends and I never ventured far from our block were the gangs. In my neighborhood was a gang called the Chaplains. There was a code, though, amongst the gangs that you did not bother, threaten, or intimidate the people in your neighborhood. Some of my buddies also had brothers who were gang members, so they always looked out for us. I remember hearing about gang fights or rumbles, like the Jets and the Sharks in West Side Story. But then it was almost always about fists, maybe knives, but almost never about guns. Big difference from today when it seems to always be about guns. When we were old enough to work, some of the small businesses in the neighborhood hired us to work in their stores. I actually remember one of my friends worked in one of our local grocery stores, and he used to bring us free cigarettes. Unfortunately, fortunately, I never caught on to inhaling, so my life with cigarettes was very brief. We were always able to make a little money shoveling snow, something you don't see these days with the young people. Shoveling snow took us sometimes outside of our block, maybe 2-3 block radius, because we did shoveling for those families who didn't have young bucks like us to shovel their snow. After school and on Saturdays, my friends and I would frequently gather on each other's stoops and just talk about everything and anything. Amazing how we could keep each other so engaged in conversations that hours would go by. My local junior high school also served as a neighborhood community center, open every night of the week and all day Saturday. Basketball, game rooms, arts and craft, tutoring classes, pretty much anything that would keep young people engaged. How I so regret that schools these days do not provide that kind of activity to this generation. On the warm, hot, and sometimes even cold days, the park where the school was would be filled with future high school and college basketball players. Now imagine this, 90-degree weather, you get picked for a team, you are on the basketball court for hours in the hot sun, playing until another team beats you, and your liquid relief between games were large bottles of soda. Sorry, Lois, not healthy, but refreshing. In the summer, when I reached my early teens, my friends and I would take our annual trip to a place called Wolf Pond Park, which was in Staten Island. My first ride on the Staten Island ferry was when we went to Wolf Pond Park because that was the fastest way to get there. Even though I lived on a block that had two-way traffic and was a bus route, every few years the city of New York would allow us to close the block for a few hours for an old-fashioned block party. Food, music, and street games. You could go to anyone's yard and get a meal because everybody knew everybody. What great memories. Now, in closing, I would tell you a little bit about my teen years growing up in Bed-Stuy, but this speech is rated PG, not R. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Michael. Giuseppe, 1 minute on the clock, please.
Starting now. And it's on. It's over.
Okay, great. Okay, so now it's time for a fun fact. While people in Ireland have celebrated St. Patrick since the 1600s, the tradition of a St. Patrick's Day parade began in America and predates the founding of the United States. We will now have our table topic session led by Nazgol.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Thanks, everyone. Hello. Happy St. Patrick's Day. In keeping with the tradition of St. Patrick's Day, and as Eddie have given us already a whole bunch of fun tidbits and facts, and all the ways that you celebrate St. Patrick's Day is with Irish music and lots of drinking, and with drinking goes Irish toasts. So for the theme of our table topics, we have a whole bunch of Irish toasts, which you can take to respond to begin your table topic. So who wants to go first? Kelly, perfect. So pick a number from 1 to 10. You're muted, I can't hear you.
9.
9. Perfect. So I'm going to read you the toast. Feel free to agree or disagree, or take the toast and build your own based on that toast. Here it is. Always remember to forget the things that made you sad, but never forget to remember the things that made you glad.
Thank you, Table Topics Master, for that toast. Always remember to keep the things that you, well,
I'm going to put it in the chat.
Okay.
So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, I'd like to build on that toast. Always remember to forget the things that make you sad, but never forget to remember the things that make you glad and sad. I'd like to build on that toast. Thank you. Always remember the things that make you glad is a really great adage, because there are some things in life that do make us sad. So we have so much to be happy for, so many things to be thankful for. We should always really try to remember the small things. They're not the big things, but the small things. So to everyone today, I hope that you have enjoyed your day, that you've taken a moment to look at some of the most smallest things, like just waking up or seeing the sunshine or being able to pet your cat or go outside with a mask, yes. But we all have moments that we don't have to wait for the big ones. We can definitely celebrate the small ones. So definitely remember to keep those things in your mind, in your heart, that make you glad. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Madam Table Topics Master. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else? Who's ready to go next? Jahnavi, thank you. Great. Pick a number.
5.
5. Great. Okay, this one is actually one of my favorite ones. Here's to cheating, stealing, fighting, and drinking. If you cheat, may you cheat death. If you steal, may you steal a woman's heart. If you fight, may you fight your brother. And if you drink, may you drink with me.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. Nazgol, I know you said that was your favorite. I feel like that quote spoke to me as well, because I agree with everything on there, with the exception of something about your brother. I have a sister, so it's okay. But if you cheat, you said cheat death. I feel like I have cheated death a couple of times already. There's been a few times. One that I can think of was when my husband and I went to Thailand for our honeymoon. We were taking a scenic route to see this beautiful Buddha garden on top of a very steep mountain. Unfortunately, the scooter / motorcycle we were riding was not good enough for us, and we both fell off, and the bike fell on top of us. And we were very lucky that we weren't too close to the edge of the cliff because we would have died. Fortunately for us, there were some passerby people who were also taking the same route, and they helped us. They actually made sure we were okay, and then they went their merry way. And if you steal, may you steal a woman's heart. In this case, I stole my husband's heart. That's why we are married. 3 years going strong. I hope to have many more. And if you drink, may you drink with me. Well, I wish we all had drinks today because I would have cheered you all on. So there you have it, my cheating, stealing, and drinking story for all of you today. Cheers. Back to you, Topics Master.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think, Zach, I saw you raise your hand. Are you still ready to go?
Yes, I did.
Perfect.
I
So pick a number.
I even have a number. I'll pick 4s and 4-leaf clover. So
Sorry, what was the number?
I said 4, as in like a 4-leaf clover.
Oh, well, great. So here's your toast. May the best day of your past be the worst day of your future.
Thank you, Table Topics Master. And I presume you'll put that in the chat to help me
Yes, sir.
out. May the best day of my past be the worst day of my future. I see that as it's important to always be living in the moment rather than just being caught up in the past. Although it's nice to be reminisce about the past, as I find I've been doing the past year for some reason, I'm not sure why. But it's important to be in the moment. And I think that's something that I want to apply more, because when one is present, when one is not in the past or in the future, one is really grounded, enjoying life. And that's what I hear from very spiritual, advanced people who I admire. And someday I hope to aspire to have that completely. And that's my time. Let's turn green. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We have a few more toasts to go. So if you want to hear more Irish toast, you may speak now.
Does Subhash want to try?
Sure. I'm still trying to understand this, but I'll give it a shot. Number 7.
Number 7. Great. Okay. So here's number 7. May you have a clean shirt, a clear conscience, and enough coins in your pocket to buy a pint.
Okay. Clean shirt. Let's see. Is it in the chat?
Here it is.
Okay. Clean. Okay. So, can I be? Am I supposed to react to this? What am I supposed to do?
Section of it. The idea, like what I'm again hoping, is that take that as sort of inspiration for what you
Right.
like to talk about. So if you want to just talk about even like something totally random because you have a dirty shirt, feel free to speak about that. But just take it as an inspiration to then speak about something.
I love the idea of buying a pint, but I don't drink.
It's very much in theme.
So, but I do like the idea of having a clean shirt. But most of all, a little bit of enough coins to buy anything. If not a pint would be helpful, right? But clean conscience of all the things you have here is probably the most important for me. You know, it's something we all kind of like struggle with. It just a clear conscience also needs a little bit of. It doesn't come naturally always. I think the environment has to be right. The people around you has to be right. But one of the things that I have learned in one of my very favorite books is try to be less affected by your environment, right? So I think the challenge is really, can you have a clean conscience? Can you have a clear conscience when the environment is challenging? We are in lockdown, we're in a pandemic. Next year is going to be something else, and something else, and something else. But to kind of like weather that storm and still maintain yourself and to have a clear conscience. Well, maybe that comes with buying a pint and having a few coins and a clear shirt. Maybe that's the secret. But I'll always like to have that, and I think that's so important.
Great. That was great. That was fantastic. Thank you. Anyone else?
Let's let Eddie go because he's helping everybody else.
If
Okay,
not,
sure.
yeah. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, throw me one. Any
you want to just throw you one?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of my other favorite ones, I want to throw you this one. There are good ships and there are wood ships, the ships that sail the sea, but the best ships are friendship, and may they always be.
The best ships are friendships, and may they always be. This is a good one. This really is a good one.
I love this one.
And I agree with I do agree that the best ships are friendships, because when you go on a ship, right, you're going on a journey, right? You have a, and whatever your destination may be, that journey might be a little treacherous. There might be dangers along the way. So you don't want to go on a ship. Usually you don't want to go on a ship by yourself. You want to go with other people. You want to go to, friends, with family, with people that are close to you, your loved ones. Right. So that if danger comes, whatever dangers may come your way, you have someone there to support you, for you to lean on. If you do need support, if you need someone to talk to. So I guess, I'm trying to make the ship almost like a metaphor for life in a way. And so if the journey is life and the ship is you, then yeah, you do need friends along the way to help you. So thank you.
Can we do Giuseppe?
No. No. Not
Ari?
tonight.
And then we're
Not
done.
tonight.
Okay, so Lois, I was going to say, do you want to go for the last one then, since you're volunteering everyone? I know you had a speech though, so I don't know if you want to speak.
I think we're at time.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm going to leave. Then we can just wrap it up. But I would read this one of the other ones that I really like, since we didn't talk about it. May your blessings outnumber the shamrocks that grow. May troubles avoid you wherever you go. So back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Cool.
And hopefully you now have some toast to remember for next time you're toasting and St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, I will definitely remember my quote, but I'll forget everything I just said. Okay, so let's move on. I am very pleased to hand it over to our January Evaluator, Zachary.
Yeah, okay. So you can hear me? I'm unmuted? Correct?
Yes,
okay, thank you. Thank you, Toastmaster. And for this part of the evening, we are going to start out with the evaluations. And the first person who spoke was Lois, and her evaluator is, drumroll, who's her evaluator? I don't have the.
Ari.
It's, oh, that was.
Oh, no.
Giuseppe.
Sorry.
Giuseppe?
I thought I saw that. I saw wrong.
Yes, it's me.
So, Zach, before you give it back to Giuseppe, just so you know, so Giuseppe is Ari's evaluator. I am Ari's evaluator. And
Kelly.
And Kelly is Michael's evaluator. So you have everybody's names.
One more time, please.
Giuseppe is Giuseppe is Lois's evaluator. I am Ari's evaluator, and Kelly is Michael's evaluator. Sorry.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. And that, yes, and that was on me for that. So, Giuseppe, would you provide your evaluation for Lois, please?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster Evaluator for tonight. Lois, as always, great speech and an amazing and interesting subject. Really, really interesting. Also, the format was a new way to do this format. Usually, we do the typical speech, you talk, and this time it was more like open to a question, which is, it really changes the dynamic. Probably a little bit too long. You could have compress at least at the beginning and control a little bit more the questions and what you will be saying during the answers. I felt like during the answers you ramble a little bit too long, like I'm rambling right now, somehow. But with that saying, I will challenge you to use more of telling stories, but use the voice, use your tones, use more of that emotion. That I know that you are able to do it. When you were telling us a story about your sore throat, you could have playing a little bit, acting a little bit, so kind of reinforcing what's happening in that moment, and catching also the attention of all of us in there in what exactly what's happening. It's a very difficult subject. I have to agree. It's kind of especially with COVID around that, it's a kind of a subject that has been a lot of lies and a lot of misconstructed truths. But that's why the subject of nutrition around that, it could have been a little bit leading to, well, why you are telling me this, or I don't care. Probably changing the subject and making it around the fact of nutrition as helping your immune system to combat situations like COVID. That could have been different way to attract some people. I'm telling you this because I am one of those that I am completely against any of those advices about COVID. The only advice I take is use your damn mask. That's all. With that saying, really, great speech, excellent format. Trying just to control a little bit more the answers. You had 6 minutes for speech. You could have added perfectly another 4 minutes between the questions and answers. But it went over and it went too long. With that saying, thank you. Back to you, Mr. Evaluator, for tonight.
Thank you, Giuseppe. Our next speech was from Ari, and it was a fortunate stroke of serendipity that I got to hear a speech about, we all of us, about electricity as a Con Ed alumnus. And Jahnavi is going to be evaluating Ari. So Ari, I'm sorry, Jahnavi, excuse me, can you provide your evaluation, please?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Again, good evening, everyone. And Ari, Go Electric. I like your title. Now, your speech was a comparison between why going electric is better than using gas. And I liked how you incorporated the usage of PowerPoint slides, and you had minimal information except for a couple of them where you were showing us the statistics of all the cities that were going electric, and how you showed us, the ones that were using, I guess, I'm not sure if I'm quoting it correctly, but you were saying the cities that were using the least and then most, which is New York City. So we were in the green. Now, there's a couple of feedback because you are, I feel like, a polished speaker. Some things that you can work on is that while this is a very organized speech, very structured speech, because you opened with a question, you engage your audience, you use pauses and gesturing and whatnot, you also use filler words. And as I mentioned, because I'm also the R counter, when you're thinking about your next thought or even just sharing the next statistic, I would strongly urge you to pause, because I counted many filler words when you were doing your speech. And also, I just want you to think about something, and I don't know if this will relate in your speech or not. You were sharing all the things that going electric does for you, but I'm thinking, is there anything that might work against? Maybe like cost savings, like how much more expensive is going electric versus gas? If electric is cheaper, but that's something you can mention, because I learned that recently about gas versus electric in my own research. But to that, again, some of the things I think you did really well is your vocal variety and using your gestures. Even though, we're all going Zoom now and not all of us are comfortable standing up, I think when you are giving a speech and you're sitting down, using your gestures is very important, because it can make or break your speech. And I think it made your speech tonight. So great job. I loved your speech. Maybe there's a follow-up to the speech. We don't know, but I look forward to your next speech. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Zach, you are on your mute. On mute.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I was saying that I was thanking Jahnavi for her speech, for evaluation, and we're on to Michael with his speech on Bedford-Stuyvesant, and Kelly is an evaluator.
Yes.
Kelly, can you please provide your evaluation?
Yes, thank you, General Evaluator. Thank you, all Toastmasters members and guests. Michael Smith, your speech was growing up in Bed-Stuy. What I felt that you excelled at most was really giving us a full picture of you growing up in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. You took me back with all the different examples and all the different experiences you had growing up. It was very colorful, it was illustrative, and I really enjoyed it, because some of those things that you mentioned, like Lodi's and Scully's, I remember those things. So what I'd like you to work on more is the gestures. I think that if you had incorporated more gestures, and I think you'd have been more freed up had you memorized more of the speech itself, because it appeared that you were reading. So what I would have liked to have seen is you more connecting and looking at the audience to convey these vivid images. And I also think that you gave us so many images, from just the gangs and the camp and Boy Scouts and the stoop and school park and summer trips and the block party. I think that if you had chosen just maybe 3 examples from your experience, but I understand it was a really rich, I loved it. I was like, yeah, keep going. But I think that if you could have delved into more of like 3 different aspects of what you really loved about growing up there. And I'd like you to challenge yourself, again, as I mentioned, with using more gestures, using not your notes so much, and really connecting, visually with your audience. I appreciate that you stood up, and thank you for that walk down memory lane. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Kelly. Now we're on to our watchtowers. First being our odd counter, Jahnavi. Jahnavi, can you just explain a little bit what the odd counter does and what your statistics are?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, and everyone. So the odd counter counts the filler words. Again, those filler words can be so, like, and any repeated words. Now, I've been trying to pay close attention tonight, and I have my report. Overall, I think most of us did do well. I'm just going to highlight some people who can work on their filler words, such as Ari. During your speech, you like the word a lot and ah. And as I said, anytime you feel the need to say something, just pause. As long as it's not related to your speech, is what I mean. And then Michael, I heard a couple of ums during your speech as well. Nazgol also liked ums, but it was only 3. So you did pretty well in everything else. Subhash, I know you're a guest, so I'm just going to share my feedback. So just something to think about for future speaking opportunities. You were also using ahs and ums a lot. And everybody else, pretty good. Just 1 or 2 here and there. So back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Come on, you're going to tell me I haven't said anything? At least I have seen 6,000
From what I heard, Giuseppe, as I mentioned, everybody else only had 1 of like or So if you said it 6,000, I didn't hear it. So that's why I said I was trying to pay attention.
Thank you, Jahnavi. Our next watchtower is our timer. We're also making this meeting possible. Eddie, can you explain what the timer does and what your reports are?
Actually, Zach, the timer is me.
My apologies.
No problem. No problem. So, like I was saying, I'm the timer, and I was the person in charge to keep track of how long your speech was going. So, Lois, the first part of your speech went to 7 minutes, 59 seconds, but then extended all the way to 22 minutes. So it was 15 to 20, went to 22 minutes. Then, Ari, your speech was 5 to 7 minutes. You went to 7 minutes, 26 seconds, which is a good time. Right there. Put it this way, if it was a competition, you will pass. It was below the 7:30. Michael, 5 to 7 minutes, 7 minutes, 37 seconds. You will have been disqualified for 7 seconds. You can work those 7 seconds. On table topics, Kelly, 1 minute, 4 seconds. Jahnavi, 1 minute, 55 seconds. Zachary, 1 minute, 5 seconds. Wow. Subhash, 2 minutes, 4 seconds. Evaluations, I went to 3 minutes, 10 seconds. Jahnavi, 2 minutes 58 seconds. In there. Kelly, 1 minute 52 seconds. And thank you, Nazgol. Excellent table topics. It was actually one of the hardest. I was scared of those. Back to you, Mr. Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Giuseppe. A very detailed report. At this point in time, as the general evaluator, I give my feedback of the overall for the meeting. I think the meeting went very well. We started a little bit late. I think it was say 6:17. I think we were waiting for a couple of people. Ideally, we want to start on time. And I always say to keep in mind that we're dealing with the technical issues, which no explanation is needed for that. I thought it was very good with the Toastmaster, with Eddie providing the theme, as well as the sound effects, which spiced it up, the fun facts. I think it went very smoothly with the speeches and the evaluations. I felt I was a little off when it came to, I was having so much fun when it came to being the general evaluator, with doing my job with this. But I think it was just, what I like about it is we tend to have themes. People are very interested, participate. It's just a very, very good energy and very, very welcoming. And it's something that I really like about this club. And with that, I will turn it back to Eddie. You did a great job as the Toastmaster, and still is. Take it away.
Thank you, Zachary. Time for our final fun fact. The meal that has become a St. Patrick's Day staple, corned beef and cabbage, was an American innovation by Irish Americans. With that, I would like to hand this meeting over to Ari, our presiding officer. And remember, in the words of Douglas MacArthur, the best luck of all is the luck you make for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eddie. That was great. We learned so much tonight about St. Patrick's Day. I learned a lot more than I did before, and this was refreshing. So thank you. Zachary, you look like you're about to.
Yeah. Just a little thing that I just forgot. I was counting the word of the day, and I'll be honest, I find that's always a challenge, counting that, because sometimes I've heard someone say that's who they caught saying it, and then I'll raise my hand and say, no, I said it. I only caught myself, so if there's anyone that I missed saying serendipity, let me know, and I'll plead guilty. But back to you, our president.
Thank you, Zach. That is a good reminder that we should all be using the word of the day as much as we can. And as Eddie had first announced it, I was thinking there is a way I can work this into my speech, but then of course the nerves got me, and as I was delivering the speech, it slipped my mind and I forgot. Next time, maybe I'll be more serendipitous. I want to thank everybody for participating tonight. This was a lot of fun. And lastly, Subhash, if you have any thoughts or feedback for us or any closing remarks, please, we'd love to hear it.
Ari, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity again, to all of you for me to attend. I appreciate the feedback. I guess got to work on my ums and ahs, right? I did learn a lot today, not just about St. Patrick's Day, but also about Bed-Stuy and from your speech about electricity. And I just loved all the speeches, learned a lot. This is a wonderful club, a lot of fun people. I hope to join again. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, and well done. Also, that was a tricky table topics tonight. So I also have to work on those ahs and ums. And then if you're there, I mean, you may have stepped away from your computer, but if you're there, you can take yourself off mute. We'd love to hear about your experience tonight. And if not, maybe next time. Then yeah, Subhash, you're welcome to join us anytime in the future. All right, Nazgol had to take off, but that's okay.